In this lesson, we're going to be going over SSL and TLS. SSL and TLS are ways of doing encryption, and they were developed in order to do encryption between websites, web servers, and clients or browsers. SSL was originally developed by a company called Netscape. And if you don't remember Netscape, eventually Netscape spun off their source code and it became the Mozilla project where we get Firefox from. So back in 1995, Netscape released version 2 of SSL. There was a version 1, nothing was ever done with it. So we've got version 2 of SSL, and that was used for encryption of web transmissions between the server and the browser. 2.0 had a whole number of flaws, and SSL 2.0 has the types of flaws that can lead to decryption of the messages without actually having the correct keys or not being the right two endpoints. And so Netscape released 3.0 in 1996. So we've got SSL 3.0 in 1996. SSL 3.0 is better than 2.0, but it still had some issues. And so in 1999, we end up with TLS. SSL is Secure Sockets Layer, and TLS is Transport Layer Security. They both accomplish the same sort of thing. They are designed for primarily doing encryption between web server and web browser because we want to be able to encrypt that type of traffic. So let me show you what that kind of traffic looks like. And we are at the Infinite Skills website here, so I can go to my Wireshark capture and I can look for the start of my encrypted communication. I'm going to apply as filter here so that I get all of those messages, and I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to look for the TLS connection here. So how this works is I get a client hello going out to my server, and you can see here's my source 1.32 and the destination is 76.12.59.46. Doing a client key exchange and a change cipher spec, an encrypted handshake message, and then we start getting application data. So there's some other steps involved here, and you're not seeing all of it with this particular Wireshark capture because, again, we get fragmented packets, and at some point it starts getting encrypted and you can't see it anyway because Wireshark, without having the key, can't decrypt those messages. But what ends up happening is the client sends a hello, the server responds with a hello, they end up exchanging information as part of that, including version numbers supported, and you get a random number, and the client's going to send out a number of cipher suites that it may want to support or that it can support, and the server is going to pick from those suite of ciphers. Then we start doing the key exchange, and they do the change cipher spec from the client and the server, and eventually the server just sends a finished message, and at that point we've got this encrypted communication going on. But there's this handshake that goes on between the two systems. And there's a number of different types of handshakes depending on the type of endpoints that you've got. But that's the types of communication that goes on between the server and the client. One of the important things about using SSL and TLS is, as I mentioned, some of the earlier versions had vulnerabilities in them, and you want to make sure that servers aren't actually running those. So we want to run some scans to figure out the types of protocols and ciphers that different systems use. So we can use something called SSL scan. And this is available for Unix-like systems. It'll run under Mac OS and Linux, as well as BSD platforms. There is not a version available for Windows for this particular program, although there may be other programs that accomplish similar goals. So I'm going to do an SSL scan here against the website, and you can see it's going out and probing all of the different types of ciphers that we know about on this system. Started with SSL v3 and now we're going into TLS version 1. We could force SSL scan to try to do an SSL v2. If I scroll back up here, I get the preferred surfer ciphers, which is SSL version 3. It's using RSA for the asymmetric in order to do the key exchange. And once we get the session key up, we're going to use AES 256. And then we're going to use the secure hash algorithm to do the message authentication code, or the MAC. It's sometimes called the HMAC, for the hashed message authentication code. And what that does is it's simply a hash that you would check one side against the other to make sure that the message hasn't been fiddled with in transmission. You can see here all of the different types of cipher suites that are available. Here's TLS running RC4 at 40 bits using MD5. So that would be a pretty vulnerable type of communication to use between the server and the client. A 40-bit cipher using RC4 is a low-strength cipher, and we would definitely recommend that clients remove those from the supported ciphers that they have on their server. All of that configuration would be done at the web server, as well as when you generated your key and your certificate. Normally, certificates would be handled by a certificate authority. You can also self-sign certificates and have those installed in your web server in order to do communications with your clients. The challenge with that is browsers today warn when they see a certificate against a certificate authority that isn't trusted, or if it doesn't have any certificate authority at all, you'll get a warning in your browser indicating that there may be a problem with the certificate. If your clients are savvy enough, if the users are savvy enough, you may be able to make use of these self-signed certificates and save yourself some money. But generally, it's not recommended, simply because clients start getting used to these bad certificates, and when they run across one that's really a problem, a real rogue certificate, they're going to ignore the certificate messages in their browsers and just go to these sites that could have malicious purposes in mind and may end up compromising the clients or your customers or users. So that's SSL and TLS and how they work and negotiate between the server and the endpoint.